Good afternoon. I've been given this honor and responsibility, thank you very much, to host a wonderful set of panelists I've had the pleasure of knowing over the last few days when we met on phone and chatted. And better? Okay. And the most exciting part of it was data. And the other exciting part was partnerships. Also exciting was the bank part of it. But as custodians of data, both retailers and banks, I think it makes for a wonderful, potent combination of possibilities. And what we have on the one side is extremely rich data that the banks have, both in terms of the slew of products that they deal in, both assets and liabilities, and insurance. I know, where does insurance come in? Liabilities? Third-party products. And also, what is crucial is they have information on the household, which a lot of us loyalty marketers die for. And that's validated as well. It's not just self-reported. To the bank, you have to reveal very accurate information. So it's very accurate and actionable. The other part, which is in today's time, which is very exciting, is this whole thing about financial inclusion. I'm coming from Delhi, and that's a buzzword these days, the unbanked masses. So look at if you feel data today is huge, it's big, look at what will happen when the unbanked masses come on board. That's going to be big data, right? Really big. So it will also increase the usage of analytics. It will also force us to look at those, what we were calling micro disruptions within our organizations, which may have become staid, or major disruptions may come along the way. In this whole slew, we already have a lot of data sharing practices from the past. Much like, common communication platforms. Earlier, banks used to partner with, say, automobile manufacturers for auto loans, developers for home loans, and a lot of other, database sharing kind of partnerships happened. Then came analytics, where information was shared between the two stakeholders, I would say. And finally, you have co-creation of products, be it on the technology side, such as fraud protection and stuff, or for that matter, I don't want to steal the thunder. There are a lot of co-created products that you guys can talk about, where you can explore a lot of partnership possibilities, all based on customer data. So I'm going to start my session with asking the panel here, maybe you can start off first, Vikas. My question is, what is it that you have that your prospective partner, and I'm going to define these guys a little bit more. Vikas works for an agency, therefore he's taking the side of the brands and the upstream side of retail, right? So retailer, we have Akshay there, he's a retailer. Here's a brand custodian. So these two guys are on one side of the table. We don't want to put them in two different sides. We have Rajat as a banker, and Pratap is the new disruptive person who's in the payment space and who's looking at banking from a very different angle. Let's not call it banking, but para-banking and quasi-banking. So, Vikas, to you, what is it that you have that your prospective partners may want? What kind of data that you and your brands are able to assemble? How can it serve your respective customers better? And then we'll go to Pratap.
So let me take the example of, let's say, a typical consumer brand, let's say in the retail space. Now, a retailer or a consumer brand knows a lot about the shopping behavior of people. So if you're a retailer, let's say like Flipkart, just by the way people are surfing and navigating the various sections of your platform, you know a hell lot more about how people buy. And now, if I superimpose that with what a bank knows, I think fundamentally a bank knows a lot more about what people buy. And while there is value to the respective sets of information in their own organizations, I think the power of the partnership comes true because what the other business knows could be of tremendous value to one partner and vice versa. Because for banks, it's very difficult naturally in their own set of business to figure out people's buying behavior. Whereas for a retailer, it's very difficult for them to be able to figure out what is my consumer doing outside of my real estate. So those are the kind of sort of opportunities which data sharing platforms could create as long as there is enough value in it from both the partners' point of view.
Excellent. Pratap?
Yeah, as you put it, Praful, players like, I am speaking on behalf of Quicksilver, so players like us who have been, as you called us, disruptors, but we've been looking at innovating in the way consumers can interact with their favored, preferred brands in the ecosystem in India. Because of or in spite of all the best efforts of the existing players in the marketplace, either driven by the rules of the land, and not that we don't operate within the rules of the land, but seeing what kind of need gaps are there in the marketplace. So we've been enabling brands to engage with their consumers in a far more effective way than was possible, and engaging with their customers without depending upon the banking network to provide them the customer data. That's where players like us, so we've been driving the prepaid gift card industry in the Indian ecosystem by enabling brands to engage with each other, enabling consumers to engage with their preferred brands, enabling brands to have an omni-channel presence across each other. A department store could be present in a cinema could be present in an e-commerce store, a salon could be present in a department store. So that kind of an ecosystem.
Pratap, 30 seconds. What do you have to offer for banks?
For banks, yes, we work with the banks where now the banking players, like in the panel before this, they talked about how banks are enabling their consumers to book tickets, book book airline tickets. So we are working with banking players and enabling consumers to engage with their preferred brands directly, seamlessly. That was possible earlier.
And what do you have to offer for retailers?
So our play has been in the retail place, where we work with the retailers closely, be it offline retailers or online retailers, or in the prepaid and gift card segment. That's been our focused area.
Excellent. Thank you. Akshay.
Yeah, so I want to add to what Vikas was talking about, okay, is that we are a grocery retailer, okay, so if you can just think about what is it that we can offer customers. We offer customers everything that they consume, all right, on a regular basis. You have customers coming in up to us almost every day to buy dairy, to buy fruits and vegetables, to buying processed foods or even consumer durables. Okay, so what is it that we offer? We know everything that a customer is doing with us. What is it that they're buying? What is it that they're not shopping with us? What is it that they should be shopping with us, but they're probably shopping elsewhere? We know when is it that they come. There are some people who probably are working, so they come only on weekends. There are some people who come on weekdays. All right. We also understand in terms of if a customer is a high-value customer, is he really value conscious, or is he a person who probably only shops during non-sale events? All right. So when it comes to grocery retail, there's almost nothing that we do not know about our customer except what he shops outside. Okay. So in terms of granularities, all right, we know everything about him when it comes to grocery retail. But okay, is he using his credit card and shopping online, or is he online savvy? I may not know. Okay. Is he a customer who probably shops across 2 grocery retailers and not 1? I would not know that. Okay. So I have a customer sketch which is very detailed and it helps us in a big way. We are doing double-digit growth just because of understanding our customer better. But it's an incomplete character sketch. Okay. So there is one partner which could help me do that. All right. And that would be financial services. Why? Earlier, cash used to be in a mainstay. It really didn't matter to us whether we are tying up with anyone. But right now, it's over 60% is either coming to a debit card or a credit card sale. Okay. So information of these customers, even statistically, is incredibly beneficial. Okay. So I think what is it that we can offer is very clear to a banker. what is it that we can, and in the end, I think I'm speaking about what Praful is talking about, we all need to be customer-centric. So I think the problem that banks would, which Rajat would probably get into, is about customer privacy. Okay, so keeping that in mind, how is it that I can offer my customers a lot more, even outside a grocery retailer? I think that's what we would be looking for in terms of a tie-up.
Thank you. Rajat?
Well, so clearly I'm outnumbered on this panel, and I still have a very responsible role to play. So, well, clearly I think if you look at how trends of data and big data really have transformed all industry over the last 3 years, maybe, I think there's a phenomenal potential on what will happen even 2 years from now. Clearly, yes, we do sit on a lot of data. We do sit on a lot of financial consumer behavior. Did we understand all of it? Maybe no, but we're beginning to do that and decipher more and more out. But when it comes to partnerships, I think what Akshay alluded to is that, as a bank, I am responsible to safeguard the money and a lot of privacy for the consumer. And I think the way data and data sharing or data partnerships will evolve will have to keep that very, very primary agenda that the bank has at the center of the whole thing. I'm sure a lot will evolve, and I'm sure that there is anyways a lot of partnerships that, even in today's scenario, we can foster. In fact, we do partner with almost all categories. You've seen banks, and all of you would have seen banks bringing you partnerships, whether it's on e-com, automobiles, possibly all consumer play. But is it sort of going the next step, and is it getting as scary as Facebook or Google dishing out ads that you probably feel scared? How do they know? We're not still there, and maybe we'll not get there because it is slightly touchy and a very, very regulated area. So I really think that, at the risk of being slightly contrarian, I think while this will evolve and this will probably be a big space in the next couple of years, we will all have to be cognizant of the fact that banks are highly regulated, and keeping the customer at the center and his privacy issues at the center, what can transpire is going to be interesting.
Thank you. Now, there's a corollary question to just the two of you, Rajat and Akshay. Merchant-funded rewards are losing momentum. Each bank's offer looks the same to the merchant and to the consumer. Do you guys agree? What do you guys have to say about it? Does the retailer have data that is more valuable than you guys think he has? And doesn't that equal richness? Or perhaps, Akshay, do you know that you really have very valuable data, as rich as perhaps the banks would have, and that makes for a wonderful partnership? Does it take a third party to come and stitch you together? Probably on your own you are not able to see it.
Yeah, so Praful, I'm lucky that I'm representing a grocery retailer, so I could say yes, all right. I don't know how it would be with probably a fashion retailer with a very good loyalty program too. But when it comes to grocery retail, what a bank would have would be, they would know that transactions have happened in this particular location. They would know that this grocer gets so much of their business while the other grocery retailer would be getting the other. All right, what they wouldn't know is what exactly comprises of that particular bill. So 1,200 rupees has been spent by X. They do not know what that 1,200 rupees has been spent across. All right, so that's what I spoke about granularities. By providing that information, all right, to a banker, they would get to understand their customer better, all right? What exactly is, for instance, how exactly are their customers shopping when it comes to grocery, all right? Grocery being something which is prevalent and almost like omnipresent across all our lives, we do know that for a banker, this is very important information, okay? So that is something that I think a grocery retailer would be able to offer.
No, sure, I agree with Akshay, but I think the way I would look at it, at least on the merchant discounts or partnership, I think there is a short, medium, and long-term view on this, and I think there's a differentiation between discounting and loyalty. I think that is important. A lot of what we see today in the marketplace is discounting, and that is just due to simply your P&L pressures for the current financial year, where some crazy discounts are being rolled out by banks or by retail brands, and these are net PAT negative, right? I mean, all these 5-10% cashback that you see on various credit cards, these are straight hit on the bottom line. They don't make any financial sense. But the reason banks, including sometimes our bank, we do it, is because you're fighting with a consumer for a consumer's wallet share, who has 6 of the top banks, and which one will he pick out? And that becomes a very, very imminent, important short-term goal, because you have targets on activation, dormancy, etc., etc. But I think when you look at it at a slightly mid or long term, and that's where loyalty starts kicking in, and hence at banks at least, I think the way we see the trend emerging is, of course, transactions are very critical, but consumers are smart and they're going to always go to where they get more value. I think loyalty in the medium term will have to move towards, less on discounting or less on, short-term transactions, and more on overall behavior, experience, and so on. So I think that's a trend. I mean, I know it sounds slightly global, but that's the way we decipher it. Because yes, short-term goals are important, but on loyalty itself, you've got to look a little bit more medium-term.
Yeah, so I just want to add too, because as Rajat was speaking, I just thought about how is it that we look at loyalty programs. Okay, for grocery retail, loyalty is almost a cornerstone of everything that we do. All right, we cannot discount because we got wafer thin margins. There's only so much that you can discount to. All right, so the most important thing is to get that customer to come to my store again and again and again. All right, so in terms of everything, in terms of what is really the lighting in my store, in terms of how fresh my items are, in terms of is he buying everything from us? So the way, just to add on to how Rajat, in terms of a partnership, we provide that loyalty, all right, that a bank would find it a lot more difficult to get, all right, by saying that if you could use, or if we could tie up with a bank, for instance, a customer would start using his card more often with us as compared to anywhere else. So from being the second card in his wallet, which they would know, all right, that yeah, there's someone else who's dominating this customer share, by being affiliated with a grocery retailer, you get that bit of business. Okay, so that's one way in which you can enable loyalty for, a banker.
Thank you, guys. I have a question for Vikas and Pratap now. And perhaps you can lead it, and then we will have Akshay and Rajat take it forward. There's a larger ecosystem out there. It's not just banks and retailers. You have brands, upstream brands and downstream intermediaries as well. So let's call them merchants, banks, and other stakeholders. Can you share with us who are these other shareholders and how can they benefit from using this data? And what you described so very eloquently was recovering that lost value out there, which currently seems to be the case.
See, I think it's interesting that you bring up the point of the ecosystem, because most businesses are trained to look at their customer as this mythical animal who buys their product without worrying really about what else is going on in his or her life. Now, a bank looks at a customer from their banking behavior point of view. A soap company looks at a consumer's behavior from their bathing and hand washing point of view. But I think the reality of today's era is that every business naturally generates tons of data. The magic lies in the ability to capture that data in a way that cross-fertilization of insights can happen. And I think that's where there is a huge gap, because the same person who's likely to be buying groceries from a Aditya Birla retail store is also likely to have a banking account with Yes Bank, which might also have a banking account with a nationalized bank and a Citibank, and is a customer for a mobile phone company, has a certain number of goods stocked up in her bathroom, buys a certain amount of food items. When you look at the collective behavior that one individual is demonstrating, I think the larger ecosystem and where the maximum value creation can happen is if companies can start identifying that where in the life cycle of the same human being, and I hate to call it a customer, where in the life cycle of this human being do I want to play a valuable role? And that's where maximizing customer value, which is something we talk about a lot, actually starts becoming a feasible reality, because suddenly you realize that a lot of businesses and industries you may have been trained to naturally look at competitors suddenly start seeming like collaborators, because chances are you're chasing the same consumer with a different need where you may have complementary objectives and not really competitive objectives.
Excellent. Pratap, you've been dealing with frenemies, right? Competitors, collaborators. Today I'm a competitor, tomorrow I'm a collaborator. You want to say something about or add to what Vikas has said?
It's a good point about you mentioned, because in how we've been approaching the ecosystem. When our journey has been an 8-year journey in the Indian market where there was no precedent of this category existing itself. And so what we believe as being difficult for the banking sector was exactly what the retail sector was behaving towards. The data is mine, and it's confidential for me, my customer is mine. Like Vikas said, each retailer believed that the customer shops only at his or her store, and a grocery retailer is paranoid about the data that they have and not going to be disclosing it to anybody else. So this element of collaborative working across category, one is not saying that within a category they need to work, but even across categories that didn't exist as such. And so what really helped us, where we've seen that ecosystem, the organized retail ecosystem, has really come forward to work with each other, even to the extent of where we were saying that this, outside of this forum, there's this buzz about e-commerce versus offline versus online. And every retail forum discussion is always about the online forum, the online industry eating into the offline industry, but they themselves have learned to now collaborate with each other. We have the offline brands working with the online brands, and which wasn't exactly something which was even fathomable not too long ago. And I think even given that happening, we do see that within the constraints of what Rajat talked about, the regulatory permits and the permission marketing which needs to be dictated, the consumer is definitely going to expect that his or her data privacy laws are going to be worked upon. But within that ecosystem, there can be ways by which consumers can be given far more value for what he or she engages with his banking account for. And players like us are there within the Indian marketplace, outside of the Indian marketplace, where we see that banking sector is not going to remain the same they are. There are other providers providing banking services, which probably the banking sector will have to wake up to and see that, okay, they need to be more relevant to the consumer in their ecosystem than was the case earlier.
Akshay, lost value in data. Now, when you respond, take on the mantle of the entire retailing community, right? Not just grocery retail, fashion included, as well as online retail. Bring to life what you were earlier, talking about. You've also been part of the second loyalty coalition program in India after NetCarrots had done it. I'm just kidding. So you have that wonderful perspective, right? So can you tell us more about this lost value phenomena?
Okay. So basically, coalition loyalty is exactly that. All right. So it's basically telling a customer that there's so much more I can give you apart from where you're shopping right now. Okay, I'm not going to be myopic only about one industry. I'm going to look at all these industries that you shop across, and I want to follow you everywhere so I can give you value. All right, that is the customer proposition. All right, so if Payback is tied up with the Future Group, it's tied up with an airline, it is tied up with online partners, it's tied up with a bank, ICICI, it's actually telling you that I'm going to follow you everywhere. All right, and I'll be that little faithful puppy, the Vodafone puppy, and telling you that I'll keep on giving you offers across what you want and where you shop. Okay, so even though we all begin by saying that yes, this is the entire agenda and that is what we need to move towards. All right, there's always a problem of integration of all of this data. Okay, so big data is exactly that, right? There's data coming from various sources. All right, one issue that you always have is systemic issues. All right. is it that the data that I get from here, and probably you may have it in banks too, all right, in which the data that I'm getting from one sector, can I really use it here? No, maybe not. I'll need to clean it, and oh no, it's not worth the time and effort. Okay, so when we are thinking about, of working together, all right, with any industry, the most important thing that we need to look at is how is it that we could use that data? Okay, so that we don't have this lost value in which everyone is saying that, yes, I think we need to do it because it's the right thing to do. So we all jump on the entire coalition bandwagon, but then doing nothing about it, all right, in which almost every partner is in their silos and running a loyalty program, which is called a coalition loyalty program, but doing little or nothing for the entire coalition effort. Okay, so that's something I think that most loyalty and even retailers need to be very wary of.
So I think it's a very interesting perspective that Akshay brought out. But somewhere, the basics of marketing and also what Vikas spoke about, keeping the consumer at the center is very, very critical here. And there are a few examples that are happening today which led me to believe that we're in the right direction. So for example, we are working with a couple of partners where on a POS transaction, the slip that's generated does dish out some sort of an offer at the bottom of the slip, which is relevant to the merchant, where you are, the time of the day, what segment you've spent, etc., etc. It could be a discount on a cab ride if you're very far away from your home location. It could be a dining deal or offer if it's that time of the day. Nowadays with apps, you can dish out offers or at least lead. And when I say offers, it's slightly loosely sort of mentioned, but essentially the whole objective that we follow here is how can I invite the consumer to have yet another transaction when he's made one transaction. And I think the beautiful part of this is that you've kept the consumer at the center and always felt that so it's essentially about preempting what is the next thing that he or she will want to do, given his sort of journey of the day. I think that is a very, very important, very, very opportune sort of way of going about it. And there, a lot of partnerships can play a huge role. I also want to allude to another thing which happens actually increasingly with some of the global banks in the US. Washington Mutual, which now of course doesn't exist, did it very well. Wells Fargo does it very well. They essentially map the consumer's life journey, right? So we as banks know that, the consumer has a child because we have a minor account and so on. But what these guys do is they actually dish out products well ahead of time because they know that at 16, somebody will go to high school and there'll be a need of, funds or education loan and so on. And while it sounds very simplistic, the way it's delivered is extremely, extremely interesting. And I think that's the key piece. Can brands, banks, and the entire ecosystem actually preempt and facilitate that next transaction and deliver value to the consumer? I think that is probably the one easy step forward. Some amount of work is happening there, and that's probably a safe zone, keeping all the regulation, etc. in mind.
We'll stay with you. You made a very interesting comment to preempt, right? So I'm going to borrow something from a professor at IIM Ahmedabad who was my classmate in Buffalo. He talks about different types of analytics. Descriptive, which is what happened. Insights, why it happened. Predictive, what can happen. And prescriptive, what I should do. What are you guys doing it? Now, I don't want to, when I say you guys, I don't want to say your particular bank. When I asked Akshay, it's all about the larger community, because in our minds, we felt that you were a little progressive bank. You don't have all the kind of legacy that a lot of other banks have. So if you were to just give us a sense of how much of that work is being done. Some of them are doing it wonderfully well. It's not to say that, desi banks can't do it. But what are their challenges and what are the hiccups?
Well, so, traditionally banks want to always be prescriptive and that is, an ideal state. I think the first two segments that you spoke about is something which is happening well now. So clearly, every player, I would like to believe, is analyzing data which has happened, so which is slightly retrospective, but that is happening well. Predictive is really the big opportunity right now, because prescriptive, I think, is also something which is the Wells Fargo example that I spoke about, right? Which is then it becomes slightly more longer term, and I think it would be only fair to have larger goals or products in mind with the prescriptive nature. But the predictive piece is really the big opportunity, and that's the one I spoke about on dishing out, deals or suggestions basis geo-targeting or basis, mobile presence, etc. But having said that, I think there's a long way to go. It'll be not fair on me to say that we or any of the banks are doing either the prescriptive or the predictive ones, analytics well. That's a big opportunity, and that's really the big opportunity to partner with retail, to partner with service providers, and for the entire ecosystem to come about, and in unison. It's a little bit like the e-com, the ecosystem, highly competitive, but at the end of the day, they're all working and nudging towards the whole goal of moving, transactions online, getting efficiencies on logistics, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's a really interesting zone, for the future.
Excellent perspective. Thank you. Vikas, is it okay to answer the right questions, or is there another way of looking at stuff? Because all of this is about, descriptive, prescriptive, all the tivs
While
out here.
these definitions are very useful, I think there are 2 points of realities which are probably holding this entire large piece from happening and holding it back. One is that every business seems to be in too much of a hurry to bring their vested interest to the fore. So, like even in the conversations and the examples we picked up, it starts with a sentence that starts with loyalty cannot end with customer acquisition, because loyalty is a behavior change. While customer acquisition is, it's going out on a first date. So I think that fundamental, I think companies need to learn to be a little more patient when you're dealing with the subject matter of loyalty, because behaviors have to be seeded to the extent that they become your natural instinct, and human beings need time to be able to do that. If you make me a series of 4 offers just because I am more likely to sign up for your loyalty program faster that way, I may end up carrying a loyalty card of yours in my wallet, but trust me, I'm not a loyal customer yet. So I think that's the bit of patience that all the partners need to demonstrate. And the other bit, which is probably again forcing us to take a slightly myopic view of what data can do, is, data is nothing but it's like a box of Lego. It's like a box of Lego blocks. The structure you make out of it is entirely up to you. And I think that there is too much emphasis on analytics, platforms, data integrity, data harmonization. But remember, all those are better ways to trying to answer some of the questions you have. There is a lot less emphasis that's going on figuring out what are the most valuable questions to ask, which the data could potentially be used for unlocking value that we haven't thought of yet. And that's the place where a recent Indian example comes to mind, and that's not a data-led partnership, but I think at a very intuitive level, it's 2 organizations finding a great fit to work together, which is something that Amazon is piloting with the Department of Post in India, where Department of Post was an ailing function of the government of India, but what they had was tremendous reach into deep rural India, which is extremely hard for a multinational to even think about building from scratch today. Now what the problem with their business was that essentially they were sitting on a real estate, infrastructure, deep-rooted reach and manpower, and people have stopped sending letters. So there was surplus supply which was ailing out, and Amazon, which is trying to enter deep rural India. Now that's a wonderful partnership, and imagine if both of them were learning organizations. What a tremendous value for the rural Indian villager we could create if more of those were to happen.
Awesome. Asking the right questions, I guess. That's the holy grail. Okay, we'll move on to something which is new and happening. We have examples from Europe where PayPal has set up a bank. based in Luxembourg, and they're going to set up a bank in the US very shortly. That's what they've announced. That's disruption happening in the banking area. So we have new mobile payments and mobile enabled. So we did talk about the mobile service providers as part of the ecosystem, edging themselves into this play. What's going to happen? What's your prediction, Pratap, and how does that play into this sort of 1:1 partnership? Can we have more people on the same bed?
More people on the same bed. So it depends on how big. Is it a king size bed with lots of kings and queens together? Or talking about mobile payments, we ourselves also do, as a venture of our size and existence, we are also having to abide by the regulators' laws because we are a PPI license holder, and so we've got our own semi-closed loop payment instrument wallet out there in the marketplace, in the physical form or in a mobile form. And so we do see a tremendous scope for collaboration where within that ecosystem we operate within the gifting domain, where gifting could happen across various physical, offline and online ecosystems, and where we've collaborated with corporates on the one hand, with more than 400 corporates, where corporate customers could have their reward and recognition programs, or banks for that matter. The bank points could be used at physical retail space. So the canvas is pretty wide, still blank. So if players like us could do that, I see there's so much of potential and scope with the advent of, I don't see, and we are not operating in the discount space. We have never seen discounting as a means to drive business. Those are easier pickings. The harder act is to get the plumbing in place across various such players, potential partners, frenemies turning into partners, and allaying their apprehensions, allaying their fears, allaying their concerns that could be there, and getting them all onto the same table. Because ultimately, as you say, keeping the consumer in front and watch what makes it relevant for him or her to kind of engage with all the players in the ecosystem. I think that's where the long haul is going to be, rather than immediately transactional-based activity that was alluded to here.
I'm going to give you all an example from way back my time, 2004, where there was a partnership between a bank, I wouldn't say a retailer, but a consumer services provider. I'm talking about American Express and Delta Airlines. They had a co-branded product. The partnership was so strong, I don't know if you guys know, in 2004 when Delta Airlines was on the brink of bankruptcy, Amex wrote that $600 million check. That was the extent of taking the partnership forward. Earlier it was just looking at a co-branded card product, and then that's where the partnership evolved to. Akshay, do you think such partnerships could happen in India? Of course, you do have your own bankers with whom you bank, but from this perspective, is there such possibilities available to us? Some examples that you may have come across in your career?
Yeah, so in the end, it's all about having a symbiotic relationship, right? In understanding each other so well that you're making sweet music together. I think that's what happened with Amex, all right? So that's something that I think in terms of our domestic industry, I think we are quite a few years behind, okay, in getting there. But I think we are evolving every day, every hour, every second. Okay, I think the example that Pratap spoke about is how earlier it was almost like an offline retailer, a brick and mortar retailer would never think about an online presence and say that I don't think that's going to ever affect me. All right, they had to change, all right, and they had to adapt. Okay, and I think the adaptability of our industry is very, very, very high. Okay, because I think we are, in terms of even our populace, all right, we're dealing with customers who are so different. All right, a person who walks into your store, there could be hundreds of different types of segments if you want to really get down to it, you could arrive at. And what exactly is the reason to buy from you? So keeping that in mind, I think in terms of our industry, there's very little that we have done. all right, in which we are actually working. Okay, there was a beginning in which there was a few people got together and said that let's try to work together. But even that, the industry really hasn't taken off from there. So at the moment, we only have one coalition program to a certain extent. There's no one else who followed suit, which means that people are still reluctant to say that, will this really work for me? I don't really think so. And I don't want that to occupy my mindset at the moment. But yes, going forward, we definitely need to think about it.
Bullish for the future, although not wonderful examples to quote out there. Rajat, what's your take?
Well, I don't see that happening. I don't see, an Amex, Delta sort of a repeat, $600 million check. Not going to happen in India. But
Tough banker.
but I think what we can safely say is that there is optimism for partnerships to sort of prosper in the future. And this whole thing that you start talking about of everyone wanting to be in the payment space, and so as banks we now see competition from small banks and payments banks and telecom providers, and a lot of people ask us that are you petrified because there's so much competition. So well, I mean, look, technically these are all subsets of a bank, and a bank, 80% of the bank's revenue comes from asset products, which none of these guys can, at least till now, dwell in. And payment services are not huge revenue generators, right? So, I mean, in the short term, yes, a lot of, a big consumer base has been built up, and, a certain wallet has 100 million customers in like 3 years, and we are struggling to, get anywhere close to that in like being here for 12 to 15 years. But I guess partnerships come about, and some of you may have seen we announced a partnership with FreeCharge and Snapdeal, which is essentially a virtual card. And while they're in the same space of, technically enabling payment services and recharges, etc., but there is a synergy which is in place, and we are, powering a FreeCharge wallet. And in a short span of time, 10, 15 million cards have been issued. A lot more is in the anvil. So essentially, it's an excellent example, I think, of how, while it is a highly competitive sort of marketplace with a lot of, regulatory trends changing, opening up. But I think the best part about being in India is brands and banks will always want to find ways of doing better than that, and that will always bring about efficient partnerships. They may not be very long term, maybe 3, 4 years, 5 years. You never know how they sort of transpire. But there are some really, really good, mutually beneficial partnerships that are, being forged as of today. And I think that's the real hope for the future.
Love marriages happening, not arranged marriages, right? Okay, I think, okay, so you have this here and...
Just an anecdote about talking about banking and their limitations. I mean, we as a startup, we lost a business to a bank because they undercut us. So talk about aggression, banks have been absolutely aggressive, and they undercut us by 50%, and we actually decided not to take up that business at the rate which the bank was offering. So banks can be aggressive when they need to be or when they decide to be. So
it's not you who are undercutting the banks.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, the myth is busted
It's
today.
not for nothing that we are called, people with big pockets, right? So,
okay. Akshay, Pratap, Rajat, Vikas, thank you so much on behalf of the audience. Big round of applause to you.
thank you.